everybody. Welcome to the Covert Report with Susan Lindauer. Today, my guest is Chip Tatum, and we have a great show for you. Chip Tatum is a very famous CIA cowboy. Could pretty much say the movie Rambo was based on his life, on his actual experiences. He was one of the pilots flying cocaine into Mena, Arkansas, collected tapes, audio tapes mostly. I don't know if any videotapes, he'll clarify that in a minute, but audio tapes of his conversations with people like Bill Clinton, George Bush. He was part of the Pegasus assassination team, the internal audit, the internal affairs control of the CIA, and he has a fascinating life. When he refused to a direct order to assassinate Ross Perot, ended up parting company with George Bush Sr. He let everybody know that he had his tapes of the conversations with various high-ranking officials in government, and he said, "I'm going my own separate way." And they didn't like that very much. They decided that he had too much information. They wanted to catch him and stop him from making any disclosures. He ended up in prison. This is just an extraordinary story. Chip Tatum, have I given a direct a summary of your work, of your life, with any degree of accuracy, I hope?
Yeah, I would correct one point in it. We weren't ordered in Pegasus to assassinate Ross Perot, only to neutralize him, and we could do that through intimidation. And I might add that the same mode of operation is being used right now against Trump. His family was just received several modes of intimidation to try to get Trump to leave. So with the Cabal, with Bush and the boys, their attitude is if it ain't broken, don't fix it. And as far as videotapes, I wish we'd had the technology back then that we have now, because videotapes would be great. I do have several, more than several audio tapes of conversations, and we've included those audios with videos and videos showing the signed documents that we were given for the assassinations and so forth.
But you're saying that this is very much what is being used on Trump right now.
Certainly is.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that in more detail. Give the background on that order against Ross Perot.
Well, Perot and Bush had been enemies forever and ever, for a very long time. Bush was fed up with Perot, and Perot, naturally running as an independent, was pulling votes from him. He wanted him out. He wanted him out now. And in our meeting in Jupiter Island, he tasked the teams were led. The OSGs were led by military officers. You had North running one side. I was running one side, and an ex-general was running one side. So we were receiving taskings depending on our talents for various operations. One of those operations was to get Perot off the ballot, out of the race, so that he wasn't pulling all those votes from Bush. My criteria in working with the OSGs was, okay, I'll accept this and I'll do this, but never within the boundaries of the United States and against U.S. citizens. And they'd go, sure, fine. But they started giving us several operations within the boundaries of the United States, and I would turn them down every time. When he turned to me and I said, "I'm not going to do this," he said, "Bullshit, you aren't. I told you you're going to do it. You get out there and you do it." And that's when I stood up. I pulled out my briefcase. I got my little VCR tape that I'd made with my insurance policy, dropped it on the desk, and walked out of the Jupiter Island meeting. Although I did not accept that tasking, one of the other commanders did, and it's history. They intimidated Ross Perot by using his daughter and her wedding coming up. No doubt that they talked to Trump first and told him, if you don't get out, we're going to start coming after your family. So that's just the beginning. Those entities, if that doesn't scare them out, then they'll take it up a level. And, you know, the Bushes are involved. They have Neil Bush now as their front man standing out there in front of everything. The same Neil Bush that met with Hinckley the night or a couple days before Hinckley shot Reagan. So,
Wow, that's right.
yeah, that's
That
right.
Neil Bush is another bad guy. The whole Bush family are just there. It's like a crime syndicate.
When I was in New Hampshire, I'd taken 5,000 excerpts from the Tatum Chronicles with me, and a translation, a transcript of the conversation in the back of my aircraft in Honduras, where two of Clinton and Bush's men were sitting in the back talking back and forth, and said that there were some monies missing, and they were going to take care of things to go after the people. Speaking of Barry Seal, and that they'd have Jeb handle it out of Columbia. So Jeb's dead in the middle of it, and I passed out 5,000 of those in New Hampshire.
Well, and let's be clear. You were charged with treason because you exposed Iran-Contra.
Yes, among other things, and because I walked. You know, you just don't walk away from black operations, and I knew that. But, you know,
Yep.
you just get to a point where you have to say enough is enough and do what you're going to do, because that's it. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not with you anymore. What you're doing, I realize what you're doing is not in the best interest of the United States. It's in your own best interest and has nothing to do with our national security and has everything to do with your pocketbooks.
Yeah, and this was generating private revenues for the elite political families.
Sure, and for black operations too. But you know, in '76, Congress pulled funding from black operations and said any funding has to come. You know, black ops monies didn't have to be reported through Congress. They would just pull it from different budgets for black ops. The CIA could, or DIA. And in '76, Congress changed that, and all black ops, all operations, intelligence operations, had to be approved and funded through Congress. Well, Congress can't keep a damn secret. How can you even expect them to keep a secret when you ask for money to go do a black operation? So they decided to start making their own money. Well, they'd already been making their own money. If you look at Air America and the heroin, we were flying down there. But so they just continued in doing it and continue it up through today. Look, you people think that Afghanistan, we need to be there. You're wrong. We need to be there. And the only thing our soldiers are doing are standing and guarding the poppy fields and the bad guys' little businesses over there. Our soldiers have orders not to interfere with the warlords and their businesses, whether it be child prostitution, human trafficking, the heroin production. We are not to interfere with any of that. And because of that, heroin use in the United States has grown exponentially, over 1,000%. And why? Because it's funding the cabals and black operations. Look, these cabals, these evil people, power. They're just hungry for power, and they can never get enough power. And they equate power with how much money they have. And, you know, they'll go against one another just to grow that power. I know. We ran several missions against politicians who were part of the cabal, who were part of the enterprise, taking them down so that others could grow. Let me give you an example. Something we did during Honduras, during the Iran-Contra conflict in Nicaragua. You know, we were in Nicaragua. Ortega was there, and he was the democratically elected president. However, he wanted to nationalize bananas, basically, is what it came down to. And you had Del Monte, you had all these huge U.S. corporations there that needed protection, and so we decided we were going to take Ortega out, and so we formed Contra camps and brought in all these ex-Somosan thugs, promising them monies, promising them everything if they'd go and training and arms if they'd form a rebellion against Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua. We based that out of Honduras, and that was part of the Iran-Contra thing. Part of what we did is we traded off, under North, he had the great idea, and we traded off guns for drugs. We were able to get, for every M16 and 1,000 rounds of ammunition, we'd get a kilo of cocaine. So, and we would ship that back to the United States. Barry Seal was one of the primary shippers. Well documented. So here we have this big conflict going on in Honduras, and Ortega. The thugs just didn't. We really didn't want to win there because it was too lucrative for them to have their drug guns for drugs trade off going on, and getting the cocaine back here. But it came to a point where when Hassan Foss, his aircraft crashed, and the violation of the Boland Act came into play, and was public knowledge to Congress that we had to do something to finally end it. So what they decided to do is they brought in Pegasus. We went to Ortega. We told Ortega, okay, it's time for you to leave office and hold elections. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. And so the message was given to him: you're going to hold elections, or else. And so we gave him 2 weeks, and he just ignored it. He said, yeah, what are you going to do? So we went back and we said, okay, this is your cousin. We showed him a picture of Rafael, his cousin, and said, your cousin's going to die in 2 weeks if you don't announce elections. And he said, okay, yeah, sure. Didn't believe us. So what he did is he put a battalion. He put him in El Ocotal, a battalion military base, and protected him with a whole battalion of military. 2 weeks to the day, 2 missiles were shot from a Loach helicopter, U.S. Loach helicopter, based out of Honduras and El Salvador, were shot into that compound, killing Rafael.
Wow.
A week later, Ortega was approached and told, now, you're next. There's nothing you can do to protect yourself. We will get you. And 2 weeks later, he announced elections. So what can they do to Trump? Sky's the limit, dear. The cabal has absolutely no qualms about killing family members, killing children, killing whoever they want to get their way. So, and they have very, very well trained operatives. You've met some of them.
Oh yeah, I do. They're ferocious operatives. I mean,
and they're unknown. They're wandering assets in every country in the world. We have wandering assets sitting there, well trained, well funded, just waiting to get into the game. So
that's right. Wow. Well, but to take down a presidential candidate, that requires a little bit. Like you said, they went after his son. Sending the white powder to his son. I just, he's had so many wives. I think that he is pretty much a Teflon candidate in the sense that he is not afraid